everyone, and welcome back to Mining Networks. I'm joined with Rick van Nieuwenhuizen from Contango ORE, so thank you very much for joining us today.
A pleasure to be here.
So let's start with getting a nice overview of the company.
So we're in Alaska. We found a 1.3 million ounce gold deposit, high grade, about 4 grams per ton. And we've, about 2 years ago, we partnered with Kinross. And the idea was to process our ore at their mill. So we formed a 70-30 joint venture with Kinross. They paid $93 million for their interest. And last 2 years we've been doing the infill drilling, completed a feasibility study earlier this year in July, released that. We submitted our permit application in December of last year and received the permits for what's called a 404 permit for construction in wetlands. We received that in August, and so we're constructing the road and the camp, and next year we'll be mining and not producing gold. That'll be in 2024, but we'll be forming the stockpile, 250,000 ton stockpile up at Fort Knox, and then start processing in 2024. So.
Wow, you guys have been very busy by the sounds of it. So could you run? Yeah, it sounds it. And we'll get into more detail about a lot of those things. But could you just run us through your market cap, share structure, and a bit about what you've got in the bank?
Yeah, so we are traded in New York, NYSE American. Our trading symbol is CTGO. We have only 6.8 million shares outstanding, so we've been very prudent with our capital raises. We, as of the end of September, our last reporting quarter, we had $17 million. Now we've been doing construction, so we're starting to spend that. I'm here in Zurich to raise money. I'm working on closing a debt financing for $40 to $50 million. That's going really well. I think we'll probably be announcing something in a few weeks here. And I want to raise another $25 million of equity, so hence my visit to Zurich.
Brilliant. So now let's start off with the, well, congratulations on the construction decision at, I have to pronounce it now, Manh Choh?
Manh Choh. Soft M, yeah.
Yeah, Manh Choh. So could you remind us of the economics there with the joint venture with Kinross, but also with the you're in a relationship with the tribe there also in Alaska?
Yeah, so the Tetlin tribe owns the land, and it's a bit of a unique situation in Alaska because usually the native corporations own the land. Either surface is typically owned by the villages and the subsurface by the regional corporations. But this tribe, this was an established tribe quite a while ago, and they had a reservation under the old Bureau of Indian Affairs Act. And when the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act was passed in 1971, the tribe didn't really want to be part of another group or another corporation, so they just said to the federal government, give us title to our 785,000 acres of land and we'll be happy. So that's what happened. So we have a mining lease on an area the size of the state of Rhode Island. It's on private land held by the tribe. It's probably the largest single contiguous block of land in the United States under one owner. So we've been working with the tribe for 12 years, so we've got a very good working relationship. They will receive a royalty, and we've been hiring and training from the local villages extensively for the last 12 years. So now under Kinross, and obviously it's stepping up to construction and mine operation, and the tribe's very much involved with the project as we now transition to mining. The joint venture with Kinross and the feasibility study was released in July, and so the basics of the feasibility study are that the mine will produce about 225,000 ounces of gold a year. Our 30% share would be 67,500 on average. The capital raise is $182 million, and our share of that is basically $55 million. We've been guiding, and it's the collective we here with Kinross, that we still see the effects of inflation going on, so we want to have a sort of an extra reserve account of close to $20 million. So if you call it kind of $200 million raise is kind of what we're aiming for. Now we've spent some of that money already. Obviously, we've been under construction this year. So the all-in sustaining costs, Kinross is guiding that they're $900 an ounce. which is pretty good. Now, ours are going to be a little more because we're having some discussions on the trucking arrangement, and there may be some things, some news developing there where they pay for the capital of the trucking, but then we pay it as an operating cost. So there's some details to work out there, but we're kind of guiding $1,000 to $1,100 for our all-in sustaining costs. So when we're in production, and if you're in today's gold price of say $1,600 an ounce, we should be generating in the neighborhood of $35 million of free cash flow. So pretty substantial for a company with only 6.8 million shares outstanding. That's it's a good ratio of ounces produced to per share outstanding. So.
Definitely. So what is the current reserve, and is there scope to kind of increase the life of the mine?
Yeah, a lot. So the current reserve is about just shy of 1 million ounces, and it's gold equivalent, but it's mostly gold. There's a bit of silver that'll come out as well, but it's mostly gold. And it's a 5-year mine life, 4.5-year mine life, but we have a huge amount of exploration. Again, the area is the size of Rhode Island, so it's all private land. What we'll focus on is what I call MineX. It's the soil geochemistry and the geophysical anomalies that are right in and around the two known deposits, which are right next to each other. They're structurally controlled, and we found these things because they outcrop on top of the hill. Mm-hmm. The structures go down the hill and down towards the valley. We haven't drilled down there enough to know whether there's more down there or not. So that's all the sort of exploration you do when it's right in and around the mine. So
is the mineralization open at depth or along strike?
The two deposits dip in opposite directions, so they were drilled in opposite directions, meaning the middle is not drilled.
Okay.
So we don't know it's at depth. When there certainly is open at depth and along strike, and there's lots of anomalies that we just haven't drill tested yet. So I fully expect that we'll have more than a 5-year mine life.
Yeah. So you mentioned about having the added cash flow in the future when everything is producing. How do you plan on reinvesting that added cash flow to keep adding kind of value for your shareholders?
Well, Kinross is doing all the heavy lifting on Manh Choh. It leaves us to do what we do best, which is exploration. And so we have our second advanced project is called Lucky Shot. Mm-hmm. It's an underground mining situation. It was in production historically and then shut down by administrative order in 1942 when President Roosevelt used the War Act to shut down all gold mining, ostensibly to support the war effort, but probably more to control the gold price. But that mine was never reopened, and it was producing quarter million ounces at 40 grams per ton, so very good grade. Now I'm sure they selectively mined it. So we've refurbished the underground workings, and we're drilling from the footwall up into the hang wall with a series of fan drill holes. Assays are ridiculously slow, so we're waiting for results. But we see lots of visible gold in the core, so we're confident we know we're hitting the vein. We drilled 24 holes and we've hit the vein in all the holes, and about half the veins we see visible gold. So we'll just wait for the assays to come back. But that's something we can also perhaps quickly get into production. Mm-hmm. We know where the Fort Knox mill is. It's an underutilized mill. Kinross has a stated strategy of wanting to have a central milling complex, and it's a great piece of infrastructure, so we all might as well use it. We have an advantage by Lucky Shot. The railroad is about 15 miles below us in the valley, so we could throw the ore in a box, truck it down to the railroad, haul it up to Fairbanks, and haul it up to the Fort Knox mill. So no discussions with Kinross at this point. Obviously, they know what we're doing, so we think that's an overall a good plan to get a second project in production without having to build your own mill and tailings facility. And it just seems to make a lot of sense to take advantage of the big one that's there. It's a 45,000 ton a day mill at Fort Knox, so it's a substantial mill. They average about 30,000 tons a day through it. So we're good explorers, and we'll just help them fill the mill.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it sounds like you've got a lot of existing infrastructure in place that it's all working in your favor. So do you have any plans with the rest of the license to do any more work or?
Yeah, absolutely. Another one of our projects is called Shamrock. It also is right next to the highway, so there's a theme here. We're not going. I know most people come up to Alaska and work in the middle of nowhere. I formed a company called Nova Gold 25 years ago. We found the Donlin project, 40 million ounce gold deposit. I left the company 10 years ago when it was a $2.5 billion company. It's still a $2.5 billion company, and that was 10 years ago. So. It's a fantastic deposit, but it's not developed because it needs a huge amount of infrastructure to develop it. So I'm sticking close to the road system. Yeah. Shamrock is right next to the highway. It's only about 90 miles from Fairbanks. And we're exploring a district that produced about 120,000 ounces of alluvial gold. And we're basically exploring the uplands for the source of that gold. So we'll be busy with that next year, as well as advancing our Lucky Shot project. So yeah, lots to do.
Yeah, no, it sounds it. And you also have a number of other licenses, don't you, that are in an advanced exploration phase. Could you talk us through those assets and the plan? Yeah,
they're more early stage. So typically you're following upstream sediment anomalies. This is our again right next to the highway. A little steeper terrain in some of these other targets, so we don't want to try to do too much at once. We've done a sort of a base amount of work. We know that there are anomalies out there. I think what we're doing at Lucky Shot is more of a priority, and I think the work that we can do at Shamrock, we've done enough work there that we can go drill next year. Whereas the other targets, we're still, trying to figure out where the best place to go drill is.
Yeah, boots on the ground, just looking around.
More boots on the ground, and stay focused. I like my approach is always more of a rifle shot approach than a shotgun approach. We like to kind of pick our targets and then test whether there's something there worthwhile, and if there isn't, we walk away.
Yes.
We're not going to have a big portfolio of stuff that nobody's working on. That's not helpful.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So in your eyes, where do you see Contango ORE going in the next 5 years? Like, if you could have a vision for it?
Well, we're on a relative basis, we're a pretty strong company.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of shares outstanding. We're New York listed. We're not your typical Canadian junior. No disparagement intended, but just we're in a different ball game. Yeah. When we're generating cash flow from Manh Choh, we can use that to augment production from Lucky Shot. Obviously, there's exploration work to do there, and there's a lot of details to fill in. But if we can develop a second mine there, then we'll continue to use that cash flow. Again, because we don't have a lot of shares outstanding, I kind of like the idea, and I'm a significant shareholder myself. I own about 7% of the company. I see the potential to pay a dividend, and sort of half dividend and half continuing to explore our projects. So I think that makes for a good strategy. Yeah. But there's lots of other possibilities out there too. So.
We'll just have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
And just a nice way to kind of conclude this interview. Over the past 12 months, as a company, what are you most proud of it achieving?
I think we just won a safety award in Alaska for having no lost time incidents, and we had a major avalanche in the region. And because of our precautionary planning, we shut operations down and then self-triggered the avalanche. So it was a controlled avalanche, but we got everybody out of there, and so it was just good planning and just common sense, frankly. But I think that's the proudest thing we've done this year, and it's I think it's a good testament to the good work and fine work that our mining team has done.
Yeah, for sure. That's excellent, and very well done to you guys for managing that correctly. And then over the next 12 months, is there a key milestone investors can look out for?
Well, there'll be quite a few, actually. Coming up here, we'll have, hopefully within a month or so, we'll have results from Lucky Shot. But the assaying is just painfully slow, as I'm sure everybody is complaining about. But so there's some milestones there. We'll put our debt financing in place. We'll complete our equity financing, and there'll be lots of construction photos from Manh Choh, and forming stockpiles with ore at Fort Knox, and trucks hauling the ore up to Fort Knox. So yeah, there's a lot of lot of great milestones coming, and obviously the key one is production in early 2024. So that's the plan.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to following along with all those updates. Thank you so much for your time today, Rick.
Pleasure.